I'm putting two chapters or two lessons together today, 2.4 and 2.5, multiplying and dividing integers. The reason why I'm doing this is because they're two easy lessons that have the same rules. So we're putting two together today. This is lessons 2.4 and 2.5, multiplying and dividing integers. Okay, so here are the rules. The rules are for both multiplying and dividing. The product and quotient, so product is the answer to a multiplication problem and a quotient is the answer to a division problem. If two of the numbers are same sign, the answer is positive. If the product and quotient of two numbers with a different sign is negative. And I'm going to go to the next slide here, and that'll give you some ideas about what this looks like. So I made a chart. Okay, so if the first number is positive, the second number is positive, the answer is going to be positive. Notice this is an example right here. If the first number is positive and the second number is negative, the answer is going to be negative. If the first number is negative and the second number is positive, the answer is going to be again negative. If the first number is negative and the second number is negative, the answer is going to be a positive. So an easy way to remember this, two signs that are the same is a positive, two different signs is a negative. So make sure you get something written down. If you wanted to, you could make this and actually make another, you make another table here or another row here, or column, and you could write, let's see, positive, negative, negative, positive for the answer. Just so you know. All right, so how does this work? So the first thing you're going to do is you are going to find a problem. Up there it says negative 9 times 2, and the first thing you're going to do is you're going to do the math. 9 times 2. 9 times 2 is 18. Then you say to yourself, okay, my first number is negative, my second number is positive. If they're the different signs, it's going to be a negative answer. Then you got to make sure you put in your negative sign. Down here I have negative 5 times negative 5. First do the math. 5 times 5 is 25. Then you say to yourself, what's my sign? Negative and a negative should be a positive. Now you don't have to put a plus sign in front of the 25 because when we talk about positive numbers, we usually just have it as a number. We don't put a sign in front. So not necessary to put a sign. All right, up here I have three numbers. So the easiest thing to do here is to do from left to right. Do these first. 6 times 2. 6 times 2 is 12. And it's going to be a negative because positive or negative 6 times 2 is a positive 12. Then I'm going to bring down what I did not use and multiply them. 12 times 3 is 36. And if it's going to be a positive or negative, it looks like it's going to be a positive answer because I'm multiplying two negative numbers. The next thing I'm going to do is down below, and it's 4 times negative 2. So 4 times 2 is 8. And I know it's going to be a negative because this is a positive and this is a negative number. Then I'm going to bring down times 3. 8 times 3 is 24. And it's going to be a positive because I have two negative numbers that I'm multiplying. You have to be careful when you do this stuff because if you would get something wrong, let's say you said this was a positive 8, it's going to throw off your answer. So please make sure that if you are doing this, you have the correct signs. That's really, really, really important. Okay? All right, let's move to the next slide. We're going a little fast. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to simplify. Now you might see problems that look like this. So let's talk about the top one. We have 6 times negative 4t. What this really means is you're multiplying all of them together. So in reality, I'm going to write this out. It's going to be 6 times negative 4 times t. So that's what it looks like in expanded form. Multiply these two first. This would be a negative 24, and then you're going to multiply by t, but we don't know what t is, so you can leave it as negative 24t. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. Let's go down below. Okay, so I have 3 times a times c times b. Notice that b has a negative with it. Whenever you have a negative letter and no number, you have to put a 1 in front of it. If you remember from last year, I talked about putting a 1 with the negative number or a negative letter, like 1 with the lonely variable. That goes for here too. So this is how this one would look right now. 3 times a times c times negative 1 times b, because I'm going to put a negative 1 here. That's what it looks like. Then I'm going to multiply what I can multiply. 3 times negative 1 would be negative 3. And then I don't know what a, c, and b are, so this is what it would look like as an answer. Okay, up here I'm going to go to negative 4 times a times negative 2 times b. multiply what you can multiply. This would be an 8. Then I'm going to include the A and the B, or you could write it like this as well. The last one I'm going to do is down here. So notice I have a negative D in here. Let's put a 1 in there again so we can get out of that negative D. If I use that negative 1, it's going to help multiply that negative out. So this is what it would look like. Just like this. I'm going to multiply what I can multiply. Negative 5 times negative 3 is 15 times negative 1. This would be negative 15. Then I'm going to add in my C and my D. So the gist of it is if you have a negative letter, you have to put in a negative 1 to cancel out that negative letter. If you don't do that, you can't multiply something by a negative letter. So make sure you remember that negative 1. Okay, we're going to try a few problems with division. Remember, it's the same rules. So 72 divided by negative 9. I'm going to take 72 divided by 9, do the math. I get 8. Then I decide whether or not it's a positive or negative. It should be a negative 9. I'm going to go over to the top one over here, negative 100 divided by negative 5. I know it's going to be 20. Positive or negative, it's going to be a positive because 2 negatives make a positive here. Okay, then I get to below, there's some substitution I'm going to do here. Sure. I'm going to substitute here. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to write in what I know. Then, so for this one, I'm going to take the negative 3 times negative 6. I need to do the top part first, and that's going to give me 18 divided by negative 2. 18 divided by 2 is a 9. And then I'm going to include my negative sign. It's going to be a negative 9. Over here, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to write in what I'm substituting. Okay, I'm going to do the top first. Negative 10 times 4 would be negative 40 divided by negative 8. 40 divided by 8, just do the math. It'd be 5. And it's going to be a positive 5 because 2 negatives make that positive. Please write out what you're doing. Show me what you're doing so you don't get confused. Most likely, if you don't write out what you're doing, you're going to forget a sign. Therefore, you're going to get them all wrong. So make sure you're writing things out so you can see what's going on. Okay, another thing that is going to be talked about in today's homework is finding the average. The average, or the mean, is another word for it, the mean. So find the average or mean of negative 2, 8, 5, negative 9, 12, and 2. To find the average, what you do is add all pieces of data. Oops. And then you're going to divide by the number of pieces. Okay, so you're going to do negative 2 plus 8 plus 5 plus negative 9 plus negative 12 plus negative 2. So what I would probably do first, I'd find an easy way to add all these together for myself. So I would probably maybe add the negatives first. So here's a negative, here's a negative, here's a negative, here's a negative. So I will probably do those first. So I have negative 2 plus negative 9 would be negative 11 plus, let's see, negative 12 plus negative 2 would be negative 14, which would be negative 25. So that's all the negatives. And then I have my things right here. So plus 13, because those two equals 13. And then I would have a negative 12. Okay, so that's adding my pieces of data. Then I would take my negative 12 and divide by my number of pieces. So how many do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Dividing by 6, and I would get a negative 2. Negative 2 would be the average of this set of data. Okay. Linda, here's another example of a mean problem. So if you need an example, this would be a good one to get in at. Linda has scores of negative 3, negative 2, 1, and 0 during 4 rounds of golf. Find the mean. So you're going to add all these together, including the 0. The 0 is also included. Even though it's not going to add anything to it, you still have to include it. So let's see, I have negative 5 plus 1, which would be negative 4 plus 0. Okay, negative 4 is going to be my adding all my pieces of data together. Then I'm going to take negative 4 and divide it by how many pieces I have. I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Like I said, you have to include 0 because it is a data piece. Negative 4 divided by 4, negative 1. That's my mean. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is all I have for you today. Just remember the rules. That's the big deal. Remember the rules. 2 Different signs is a negative, two same signs is a positive. And that is all I have for you today. We'll see you tomorrow.